This is the iPhone 16 Pro Max, and I gotta say, I'm thoroughly impressed with everything Apple has really done. Now, this does feel like an S-year upgrade compared to my 15 Pro Max that I used for the entire year. So if you're coming from a 15 Pro, I'm gonna say this right now, you probably do not need to upgrade unless you're on an upgrade plan or get a really great deal and it's not gonna cost you really anything extra. Or even if you wanna go from a 15 Pro Max, it isn't gonna be a bad experience. So let's talk about the experience. So one big thing I feel like we kind of have to hit out of the gate is color. This is the white titanium that I got. It's the same color as my 15 Pro Max, although I do have the new capture button here. That's really going to be the only way you can tell them apart, as most cases actually just have a cutout here unless you get an Apple case or the Beats case, and some other companies now are going to start having this, kind of capacitive button here that will allow it to register your touches. But we're going to talk about the capture button in a second. So if you don't know, the iPhone 16 Pro comes in a 6.3 and 6.9 inch size. I went with the Pro Max, which is 6.9 inches, although I honestly have not noticed, I think, the larger size compared to my 6.7 15 Pro Max. As Apple really just shrunk the bezels, they didn't seem to do much else but to make it really larger. And it does come in 3 other colors. I have the white titanium, you can get black, desert, or so all of these are really good options, although they are so similar to each other that you're kind of picking between white, pink, white, and black. So it's really up to you. I did wish we got better colors like we did with the 16 series, but unfortunately the Pros don't get fun colors. Maybe next year, Apple. Now, the new camera control button is something that Apple added. It is not called the capture button like we thought it was, although to me, capture button just sounds so much better than camera control. Although Apple's not really touting it as a button, even though it does physically click, just like your power button, your volume button, and your action button. To activate it, you just basically, when your phone's off, you kind of have to do like a double tap and it'll launch it. I do think that's going to be fixed with a software update to bring you straight to the camera. But once you're in the camera, you just have to basically tap with your finger. You can adjust the zoom, double tap, adjust the settings, and of course, click it in to take a photo and then hold it down to take a video. Now, third-party apps are going to take advantage of this. Right now, I've seen Final Cut Camera, which is an Apple app, Instagram, and Apple has, of course, touted more during their keynote. They said we are going to see Snapchat and some other apps, which I personally am so excited for Snapchat and, these other apps to finally take advantage of this button, because to be able to just take a snap like this and then just press and hold and kind of scroll through who I want to send it to is going to be perfect and just make the experience better, at least in my opinion. Now, this new button allows you to scroll through a list of options. So when you press on it, you can do zoom, focus, exposure, cameras. So if you want to use the 0.5, 1, 2, 3, or your styles as well as your tone. Now, all of this can kind of be adjusted afterwards, except for the zoom, because you can't really zoom into a photo afterwards, or what camera you took it with. Now, I personally have mine set to the zoom by default, as all I have to do is basically tap and swipe. Now, it is a little weird as it's not the way you think it is. So if I swipe up on the capture button, I'm actually zooming in, and if I swipe down, I'm zooming out. In my opinion, down should have been in and up should have been out, but Apple did this in reverse, and it's not something we really have control over. Now, if you do have any iPhone 16 series, you've probably noticed that isn't always the greatest experience with this new button. Now, you do have to actually go ahead and change this under accessibility settings for the button and make it faster, as this just makes it respond to the tap of your finger a lot better. And I kind of wish Apple would just change this out of the box, because the default experience absolutely sucks and I think is deterring a lot of people from using this button. Now, the whole purpose of this button was to kind of just give us quick access to visual lookup. Now, visual lookup is a feature coming later with iOS 18, where you essentially can just point your phone at it, have Apple Intelligence tell you what it is, and something in your calendar, identify things and all of that, which is definitely going to be very nice. And it's kind of its take on how it has in the Photos app, where you can look up something later, like a laundry tag, a car symbol, and all these other things. So I think that's going to be very nice once it comes out. Now, another big change to this iPhone, as Apple kind of claims every year, is battery life. Well, this is the first year we have actually seen a battery life improvement. I have been a Pro Max user since the iPhone XS Max came out, so I guess technically, I have been a big phone user since the iPhone XS Max. I can't really say Pro Max because Apple didn't introduce the Pro Max until the 11 series, but I have been using their bigger phones since they were the XS Max. So I've been no stranger to the better battery life that the Max iPhones got, although now it's finally getting back to where we used to be with the iPhone 13s, I feel. If you had an iPhone 13 Pro Max, you probably remember that the battery life was so great that you could get 8 hours of screen time, no problem. Well, the 14 was a significant decrease, as well as the 15. I personally could never get through a day anymore, I felt, and it got to the point where I would have to charge my phone multiple times throughout the day, or just not even use my phone because it would be dead. Now, yes, you really shouldn't worry about the battery health unless it is significantly degraded and telling you to replace it. I am a firm believer in you should just use the phone how you need to use the phone, and, whatever happens, happens. You can always buy a new phone, but you can never re-experience those moments that where you were like, oh, I didn't want to take a picture of it because I didn't want to, hurt my battery. Just use the phone as you need to. That's personally what I believe. Because we got this better battery life and we're finally getting back to that battery life we used to have, I'm finishing my day at 50, 60% some days, which is absolutely crazy when I have had this off the charger for about 18 hours. I'm not really stressing again about the battery like I was with the iPhone 14, 15, in the past 2 years. And part of this is due to the new cooling system. So Apple put a graphene layer around the whole phone essentially and moved away the hot components from the battery so they also don't harm your battery, which is very nice as I'm seeing the improvements. It will be interesting to see how time changes and if it gets better or worse with time. As now the new thermal and iOS 18 have been making this just a powerhouse in my pocket, which has been so nice as I do so much from my phone. Having the ability to have everything on the phone and just not have to worry about battery life has been so nice. iOS 18 allows us to customize our iPhone in a bunch of new ways. Now, this is the first upgrade that's bringing Apple Intelligence, so it is going to be interesting to see kind of how Apple reworks some things and changes some things throughout the iOS 18 lifetime. But Apple Intelligence isn't here right now, so this really isn't a full review of the iPhone that was built for Apple Intelligence. And make sure you're subscribed for when Apple Intelligence does come out, because I will be sure to talk about that once it does. But seeing what we're promised, I think it's going to be a very great feature once it's finally released. Let me know your thoughts if you upgraded or even if you don't plan on upgrading, because this is definitely a very interesting upgrade year to the iPhones, as we don't have every feature that this iPhone is supposed to have, even though Apple said it would at launch, which it doesn't. And while you're down there, if you want to hit like and subscribe, I'd appreciate that as well. But I want you to remember that today's a good day to make a great day, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Peace.